And here you have President Trump sort of behind the scenes, keeping his distance from the image coming out of this summit. And, to think that this was supposed to be a G20 summit that emphasizes global partnerships on business and so on, the lingering image from this gathering here in Buenos Aires seems to be these two autocrat leaders, Russian President Putin and the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, high-fiving, very shortly after this very big global controversy over the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post journalist. And Wolf, as we're remembering former President George H.W. Bush, one has to wonder what former President Bush, the late President Bush, would have thought of the outcome of this G20 summit. He was very much interested in multilateral partnerships, not pulling away from the world. And here you have President Trump sort of behind the scenes, keeping his distance from the Saudi Crown Prince, keeping his distance from the Russian president, in part because they haven't been able, the U.S. administration hasn't been able to stand up to these types of regimes. What we've seen in the past is the president kind of enabling these regimes and cozying up to people like Putin and Mohammed bin Salman. And a lot of critics of the president will say that has encouraged a lot of bad behavior, and one has to wonder what the late President Bush would have thought of all this.
It's interesting. President Trump keeps saying he's not going to change the U.S.-Saudi relationship because if they were to cut back, the U.S. were to cut back arms sales, for example, Russia and China would pick up all of that. It would be a bonanza for Russia and China and a huge loss for the U.S. So where does China stand on this whole relationship with Saudi Arabia?
I mean, I think China sees an opportunity to fill a vacuum there. I mean, simply put, China has always had a policy, consistent policy, of saying we don't interfere with other countries' domestic affairs. We don't have an opinion on these things. We certainly don't talk about human rights in the way that the United States consistently has. And so I think China looks at it and says, well, if the United States pulls back, we'll do business with Saudi Arabia. They can handle their business the way they will, and we'll just go ahead and do it.
But Saudi Arabia needs the United States, and that's something that the Trump administration doesn't really acknowledge as much as they should.
And with all due respect to the Russian military armaments and the Chinese, U.S. arms are much better than those, and the Saudis know that, which is very, very significant. Guys, stick around.